Well, for more on Brazil's economy and how Carnival contributes to it, I'm joined by Mark Langevin, Director of the Brazil Initiative and a research professor at George Washington University. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's start with Carnival. In terms of the expectations for revenue that it could bring to the country, as well as the related businesses, for example, in tourism, how much does that actually boost the economy?
Well, certainly the hospitality industry in the major centers, Rio, in Minas Gerais, Ouro Preto, Recife in the northeast, and some of the other more touristy towns, they pull in a lot of Brazilian tourists and also obviously international tourists too. But other sectors of the economy, manufacturing, some of the financial services have to slow down because people are taking the time off to celebrate Carnival. But that's something that Brazilians are used to, working hard before Carnival, and especially after Carnival, getting back to the work. So it's just more of a sectoral dynamic for hospitality. The other sectors kind of lag, but Brazil's coming out of a recovery. There's some good things happening here in the future.
Now, we know that once the Carnival crowd leaves, it may be a different story. What are some of the economic realities that everyday Brazilians wake up to once the crowds are gone?
Well, you just noted the fall in the interest rate, a historic low, really both in terms of nominal and real. But most Brazilians can't take advantage of those low interest rates because there's very high unemployment, a lot of precarious unemployment and just precarious jobs where you can't get credit to buy cars, refrigerators, things of that sort. So even though the car industry is back and so forth, what we're really waiting for is the construction industry. That's the big job creator in Brazil. It's not back yet, but hopefully some of the infrastructure projects financed mostly by foreign direct investment might get going in the second half of 2018.
Now, we are seeing some optimism from the IMF about where Brazil's economy could go from here. But in terms of the types of reforms that Brazil needs to really get that momentum going, what should they be looking at?
Well, two things. One, obviously they need Social Security reform so that they can free up money in the federal government to invest in infrastructure and education that matters. And that's getting harder and harder as long as they don't do a Social Security reform. There's no consensus on how to do that. So that's really, really important. And then also they need a tax reform because it's a complicated tax system. If you want small and medium-sized investors in Brazil and outside of Brazil wanting to invest in Brazil have a hard time detecting how to invest in order to avoid tax liabilities and things of this sort. It's something that could be cleared up in the next couple of years after this year's elections to really make the tax system more transparent for investors.
Now, we are still projecting growth for Brazil, still not at the pace that it would like, but we are still seeing growth. What are some of the drivers behind that?
Well, right now, the manufacturing is starting to get going again, so automobiles and some exports. Obviously, the agricultural sector. I mean, Brazil's soy exports are booming, largely to China, but not exclusively. Iron, cotton starting to pick up. The agro-export sector is on a roll, and they're really the backstop for Brazilian development. Now we're just waiting for some of the other sectors to pick up. As I mentioned, construction. Certainly once unemployment drops a little bit more, we'll see more activity in financial services as people use their credit cards and other lines of credit to make purchases of goods and services.
And as we touch on investment, we saw that in 2017, Chinese investment into Brazil hit a 7-year high. So what's the main appeal for Chinese investors? What's drawing them to Brazil?
Yeah, 21 billion, probably about a quarter of foreign direct investment in Brazil last year. And really it's three. They're getting more and more involved in the agricultural sector. They've had a history of being involved in energy and of course infrastructure. So they're getting more and more involved in electricity, both transmission and also CEE's recent decision to possibly produce equipment, transmission equipment in Brazil itself. So these are all great investments to set up the infrastructure so that Brazil can make the most of the global marketplace.
And as we know, 2018 is going to be an election year for Brazil. What is it that you think is most likely to happen in terms of the economic visions that people are going to be presented with?
Well, right now we're caught up in all this polarization and a lot of vengeance politics right now. But there's a lot of continuity in Brazilian politics. There's continuity in the former president Dilma Rousseff's fiscal adjustment with the current government. So those things I think will go forward. I think Brazil is going to continue to liberalize its trade portfolio. I think it may sign an agreement in 2018 with the European Union. It's going to continue to try to carry out a fiscal adjustment that includes a significant Social Security reform, and it's going to try to invite more and more foreign investment in the key sectors, including infrastructure, which we know transport, electricity. These are key to getting manufacturing rolling again in Brazil, and that's what we all are waiting for, is manufacturing.
All right, we'll have to certainly wait and see. Thank you so much for joining us.